and I'm so glad to have all our invited guests who has also contributed towards the EdClan, and they have uh, really given some very, very insightful articles. So let's dive into this and do this virtual release of the journal. And I will be just quickly going through the new edition and show the audience what we have for them this time. And here it is. Is it visible to all of you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So here's our cover. It has all the articles that we are featuring here, and this is how it looks. So we have some really, really good articles, and yeah, so this is how the journal looks this time. I'm running it a little quickly because I'll again get back to hear from our contributors. And we are also covering all the ECDF events so far that we have done from January to June. And this is about our trip that we had to Bali, and
Bali, yeah.
and this is our visit to the iconic Green School. What a lovely place to be. And this was our conference and awards in the Kipina. So this is what the EdClan looks like for this year, first edition. And today we have with us Miss Sue Newman, we have Bushra joining us, we have Surbi, we have Shilpi Agarwal and Amrit Nagpal. So let us hear first from Bushra Salim. She's written on the first 7 years of Foundation for Life, a lovely article. And Bushra, over to you. Why did you contribute this article? What came to your mind when we asked for an article for this issue? And tell us a little about what it has. Over to you.
Okay, so thank you so much for this opportunity, because I'm a parent coach and I talk about how to raise your children without hitting, yelling, threatening, and bribing, because the early 7 years are extremely, extremely important. As the researcher says that early 7 years dictates the next 80 years, and all our patterns and behaviors actually generate from the early 7 years. So it's quite like a scary thing, but don't worry because we got you and we are here to help you. So what came with me is that when it comes to parenting, the first thing is that you should be aware about it. And such magazines and such ad and such novels are a very great opportunity for people to get the knowledge, because first step is awareness. Once you get the knowledge, then actually you can think about healing your own wounds, so actually you don't get triggered by your children's behavior. So this is a very great opportunity for everyone to get the article and read about all the amazing articles. This early 7 years is actually the time where children brains are like sponges. Everything that you are not even saying to them is being absorbed by them. They're looking at you, how you're talking to your partner, how you're talking to your servants or maids or staff, how you're talking to your in-laws. Everything that you're not even mentioning to your child, they are absorbing each and everything. And when it get absorbed, it's for, the rewiring thing takes time when we grow up, and when we actually try to change our patterns, it's not that easy. So I just want through this article to remind parents out there that early 7 years are extremely, extremely important. And from this live, I would like to give a little bit takeaways that just try to focus on the 3 C's. The first is that try to be consistent in your parenting journey, because one day you are being very gentle and the other day you are shouting at your kids, and these behavior make the children walk on their eggshells when they grow up, like who is upset with me, right? So try to heal your wounds so that you can be a very consistent provider as a parent first. And the second thing is that connection, they just be there for them. And it's not that that you have to be there for them like 24/7, and you have to be there and doing it. 15 minutes of quality time a day per child is enough for their healthy brain development, and it is doable, right? So 15 minutes are a great very short time, but if you give it quality time, keeping your mobile aside and everything, that's going to change the whole game. That's going to change the dynamics of your relationship with your child. So this is something very, very important, that you have to be consistent with your child, and you have to be provide a very good source of connection with your child. So if you take the early 7 years as most parents take it as that we are preparing our children for the future, so they are being rough on them and hard on them, and they get harsh because they believe the world is harsh out there. But if you are gentle, and if you are mindful, and if you are respectful, you are actually treating your child and in their unconscious that they deserve respect, and anyone in their life if won't be respecting them, they will be unconsciously and ultimately they will be leaving the table. So if you really want your child to be surrounded by good people and attract good people, so you should be the safe home for them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure this is going to be an excellent read for the parents as well as the educators, because there's so much the educators need to do with children, and we need to work together as stakeholders. Thank you, Bushra. So moving on to Miss Sue Newman. She has contributed a lovely article, and I really, I was enlightened when I read it. So over to you about yours.
Thank you, Dr. Versace. It's very, very exciting to be included in this publication. So Boogie Mites are a music and movement company. We write all our own songs, and we've always been very much informed by the neuroscience and evidence. So a lot of what Bushra was saying definitely rings true about how important this stage of life is for brain development. And what we know from our research is just how important the early auditory processing system is. And I actually worked with Dr. Catherine Murray, who I know you all know, and I saw her photos in your Bali trip. And we worked together last year on a project called Our Sound Environment Matters, because we both recognised that there was a gap in knowledge and understanding of just how important the auditory processing system is, and the sounds that we hear are for cross-brain development. In fact, in early years, approximately 80% of the stimulation of brain development comes through the ear. So it's so important that we really understand how auditory processing affects development across the brain, and particularly that auditory motor link, which is foundational to speech and language and literacy. And so what I focused on in the article is that music, how important music is for developing auditory processing. In the words of Dr. Nina Kraus, who heads up the Laboratory for Auditory Learning in USA, Northwestern University, she says that music is the jackpot when it comes to developing sound processing. And when we then understand that sound processing is impacting our memory, our attention, and the reward that we feel for learning, and then the motor responses and the automated motor responses, it's such a powerful tool for early development. We in the article, I specifically talk about rhythmic awareness and melodic awareness, and we talk a little bit about our ABCD music methodology, which is A for active attention, B for brain boost, C for community cohesion, and D for the daily dose. And that is the 4 pillars of Boogie Mites music methodology. And I give you a signpost to a digital package that you can buy into with a discount through this publication, and learn a little bit more and access some of our music activities to try out with your children. So yeah, I think...
Thank you. And this is going to be a wonderful read. And yeah, we do a lot of work with music, and definitely people would want to know more about how music shapes, little children, and to give optimal results in terms of what they're learning and how they're learning, and how it really enhances, their growth, their development in many ways. And so this article definitely, I'm inviting all our readers to read and get to know more and get in touch with you in case they want to, subscribe.
Thank you.
So moving on, we have this article by me. I work a lot with peace. So this is Peaceful Humans, Cultivating a Culture of Peaceful Early Childhood. How peace education can be a part of early childhood education, and what are the things necessary in order to set up a peace school, and how we can imbibe the qualities of, in every child, the quality of no conflict or conflict resolution, and choosing peace over aggression, and all of it. So this article by me is about how the classroom needs to look. What are the facilities we need to provide children? What is the mindset of the facilitator that is most optimal for peace education, and so forth? And there are a lot of ideas that I have also shared here about how we can go about it. And then we have an article by Archana Madhusudan. We also have an article by Sue Asquith. They are not able to join us today. And then this is a feature article. And moving on, we have Shilpi Agarwal with us, and she has written on integrating play-based learning with foundational skills. So I invite Shilpi to tell a little, give a brief about her article. Shilpi?
Hi everyone. Actually, I am a mother basically. So when I talk about my children or my child, most of the time they comes and say me, Mama, today the maths topic was very difficult. That made me think a lot. That why are they fearing with maths? Maths is not a subject from which they should fear. They will be using this particular subject in their day-to-day life, and every day, and each and every person uses maths. But a lot of people talk about foundational numeracy, the foundation, the numbers, the counting, and many more things. But it is much more than just learning to count or write numbers. It is basically, what I feel, it is the ability to understand, to apply, and communicate the mathematical ideas effectively. It also includes not only the number sense, but it includes where are they, how are they moving. It includes their estimation skills. It includes their understanding of quantities, the qualities, and everything. Understanding the patterns. Making a rangoli at home is also a math. Giving up money to the shopkeeper, taking a change from the vendor, all includes maths. But then also, many times it happens that everyone says you have a math exam tomorrow, be careful, be alert, it will be difficult. But no, it is not. It's the maths that that we use every day without even realizing it. From morning till evening, if you start counting the math topics you have included in your day-to-day life, then it will be numerous. Even a class 1 student uses algebra, but he doesn't know that he is using algebra. When we talk about data, a class 1 student uses the data. When you give a chocolate to a child and say go and distribute, he will tell you, Mama, I have 35 students in my class, so please give me 35 chocolates. There they are collecting the data, they are interpreting the data. So lot of things happen. But have you ever realized that why is foundational numeracy so important? Because it lays the groundwork for all the future learning. And without the strong foundation, the children usually struggle with more complex concepts. So the foundation has to be strong. As it's very important for any of the building to be stronger. The foundation has to be the strongest. So that is why this is what I have created. And I always believe that making a foundational numeracy more fun by rhymes, by art, by playing games, maybe by solving puzzles. Just give them very small Sudoku, a smaller one 3 by 3 box, and you will not imagine when they will on their own they will start solving the 9 cross 9 Sudoku. So it's all. It is us as a parents, as the educator, our responsibility to make the foundational numeracy more joyful experience. So when they will move on to the next graders, they won't find maths as a fearful subject. That's all from my side.
Thank you, Shilpi. Thank you. This is really wonderful. And yes, we have a lot of fear for math, and it is only because the concepts are taught to us in a way that we feel scared and we are not really willing to face. But if it is
Yeah,
joyful and
exactly.
playful, yeah, joyful and playful, and children take it more like a joyful challenge, then definitely we'll have more math lovers in the future. And moving
Right.
on, thank you so much.
Yeah, okay.
You wanted to add something? Please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wanting to add that I have seen many of the parents putting a lot of efforts playing, very small games like Ludo, like Snakes and Ladders, and many more board games and all. It just sharpen their minds and just increase their numeracy skills basically. But this helps a lot in their, in their complex situations.
Right.
So
Right.
I think we
Absolutely.
can make
Very right.
numeracy a more stronger part of it.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much. I'm sure this is going to add a lot of value to all the parents who will be reading it. Moving on, the
Thank you so
next
much.
article is by Amrit Nagpal, and she has written about rethinking assessment in early years education, shifting from traditional metrics to observational learning. Over to you, Amrit. Please tell us a little about your article.
Hello, everyone. So my article talks about a lot about assessments. I'm an education consultant, and I have been consulting mostly in India and some neighboring countries. What I've observed is in most Asian countries or South Asian countries, include and India as well, a lot of our assessments is more teacher driven. So, even the new education policy that we have in India has urged us, educators, to move towards a more child centered assessment, moving more towards a holistic progress card, where we're talking about a 360-degree analysis of different domains, developmental domains, skills of every child via observations, anecdotes, maybe a rating scale. So, my article talks about reimagining and rethinking assessments, which should include more observations. I've also mentioned a little tips on digital tools, and along with teachers, how parents can actually do assessments at home for students. So, it's not only about assessments for students, but it's also I'm talking about general assessments for young children. So children, even before they go to school, like even if they're as young as 15 months or 12 months, a parent using a particular digital app or an assessment tool can assess the development of a particular child. So it could be based on whether my child can develop physically or whether my child is developing emotionally as a 15-month-old child should be developing. So, I have written about reimagining and rethinking assessments in my article. So, I wish all of y'all who can grab your copy onto the book or to the digital copy, please grab a copy, read about assessments. And I feel it's high time that we start reimagining assessments in our country as well as in most South Asian countries, because I know that the magazine has a lot of outreach with more than 10,000 readers. So I'm sure this article is going to benefit many, many readers to rethink of the kind of practices that we are using in early childhood education. Thank you.
Thank you, Amrit. Thank you for your article, and definitely this is going to be a very good read for all our readers. Moving on to the next article, it's Roots and Wings, the cultural tapestry of early childhood. by Survi Monga, and she is here with us today. Over to you. Please tell us a bit about yours.
So, good evening, everyone. So, I would like to begin by sharing why values are so important in early childhood. And that is the same something I've spoken about this in this article, Roots and Wings. So, when we talk about early childhood, it is very sensitive and important stage where children, where a child's habits, emotions, and thinking patterns are shaped. So, if we want our children to grow up as kind, responsible, and confident individuals, we need to start by giving them strong roots and values like empathy, respect, honesty, truthfulness. So, these values will help them stay grounded and in our culture while they learn to fly high and explore their future. So, focus should not be on teaching these values because we can't teach these values. We have to inculcate them. So we have to make them the part of their life. So they do not have to learn these values from lectures, but yes, they should come naturally when we create a right environment for them. For example, like instead of saying good morning, we encourage our students to greet pranam. So they join their hands and say pranam. So this small act teaches them humility and connects them to our Indian traditions. So when we talk about stories, so every child is a storyteller or a great listener. So our mythological stories and shlokas, they are full of magic. They are powerful, colorful, and make children curious. So when we tell them stories of Hanuman and how brave was he, or a clever Tenali Raman, so they don't feel like they are sitting in a class. They feel like very excited, connected, and they start imagining those stories. So to give that good twist to a story, what the little ones have started is they have started narrating these stories in a podcast. So mythological podcast, they are actually recording their voices, and it makes them feel so proud, creative, and involved. And when children become storytellers, they don't just learn the stories; they actually feel those stories. And like everyone is doing those grandparent sessions also to connect with the grandparents and for a family connect or build that strong bond. Then when we come to use of technology and AI, so use of modern technology, AI based tools in teaching, so I believe it should not support learning. It should not replace those emotional connections. The focus should remain on developing the human emotions and relationships. So, to help children build those empathy and care, the visits to the blind schools or old age homes. So, when they have those real life experiences, these leave a deep impression on their hearts. And that teaches them kindness, empathy, and that is actually kindness in action. So, our ultimate aim is to make these practices a way of life for them. It's not just one time class or a one activity which is done in a year. We hope that these values will stay with them forever. So, in the end, when children remember is not that what you have told them, it is what you made them feel. So when they connect in the class, when they feel the things, then only they learn those kind of values. So let's give them beautiful roots of culture and strong wings of confidence so that they can fly high and make the world a kinder place to live. So that is what my article is talking about. Thanks a lot, Dr. Sharad. Thanks a lot for giving that opportunity. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for joining us today for the release of the EdClan Volume 6, Issue 1. And I'm sure this is like all other issues is going to add a lot of value for all the educators and parents alike. We shared this journal with the online, the e-copy with all our members and all our groups. Also, we email to those overseas because we want that everybody reads it and gets to know what are the new practices, what we need to do. And even for all the Tender Petals parents, we give it out, and we can see a very good feedback from all of them. So thank you so much. And our next issue would be released in December, and we'll start inviting articles again for the next one. And this I'm sure is going to be a lot of value for everyone. And very shortly, we will be sending out the e-journal copies to all of our readers and to all our contributors as well. And thank you once again, and we'll meet you again. And until our next event, stay happy, stay blessed, and wishing you a very, very good week ahead. Thank you.